Hello, everybody, and welcome back to ZakIsCinema. Yes, welcome back to the home to talk about movies, the home away from home. ZakIsCinema, as you guys know, is just for all those people out there that are just watching this video on Valentine's Day and had nothing else to do, but then you just try to gaslight yourself into thinking, well, I didn't want to do anything on Valentine's Day. It's just a stupid holiday created by corporate America where millions of other people get to benefit and generate a ton of money that's coming out of my pockets and a bunch of money that I'll never see in my lifetime. So I didn't want to go out and support something like that. I'd rather sit here and talk about some movies. Oh my God, I think I blacked out. But yes, if you can relate to that and are watching this on Valentine's Day, don't worry. It's just another day. It's Friday today, okay? But yes, today we're going to be doing another nostalgic reviews. So for anybody new here, the idea of the nostalgic review is just myself picking a movie that I grew up with, have a lot of nostalgia for, maybe haven't seen in a while, and kind of want to watch it now that I'm older, not only to see if it still holds up, but if my rose-colored glasses were just clouding my judgment as young little ZakIsCinema. So let's jump into it here. Today we're going to be doing a nostalgic review for the movie Warm Bodies that came out in 2013. It was written and directed by Jonathan Levine. It's also based on the book with the same title, and the author's name is Isaac Marion. Starring in this movie, we got Nicholas Hoult and Teresa Palmer. Warm Bodies follows the story of a zombie that becomes involved with the girlfriend of one of his victims. It follows the story as their romance together helps to create a cure for the apocalypse. Obviously, like I mentioned, I'm very nostalgic for this movie. I remember kind of growing up with it, watching it a few times in middle school. And my first memory of watching this movie was actually when we went on the 8th grade Washington, D.C. trip. I remember someone put this movie in during that ride to Washington, D.C. And I just remember being like one of maybe 3 other people actually had their headphones on and was watching it. I was the one wanting to watch it. And I sat down, watched it, and remembered loving it to the point where I watched it a couple times after my trip there. I haven't seen this movie in a while. Even when I first watched it, I always just remembered thinking that this was a underappreciated movie. I'd never heard of it. Not many people were watching it on the bus. It was really me and like one other dude. So I just felt like this never got the recognition that it deserves. So let's jump into the review here for Warm Bodies. We're going to be starting with the positives or the things that I just really enjoyed about this movie. First, I think this movie provides such a unique experience within the zombie subgenre, especially with a subgenre like zombie media. It's so overly saturated, especially ever since The Walking Dead. And I believe this, 2013, probably it came out right around that Walking Dead era. So maybe it just kind of got buried and forgotten. But I think it's such a unique experience within that subgenre. You know, right now, me and a buddy of mine are very, very deep in our treacherous Walking Dead entire series rewatch. We're deep into Fear of the Walking Dead, so as you can tell, I'm like kind of just sick of zombie stuff. Luckily, it hasn't tainted my hopes for the new 28 Years Later, but I still decided to watch this movie and still had a really good time with it. Even someone that's very, very sick of zombie media, movies, and TV shows. Like I had mentioned, I think they do a couple of unique things within this zombie movie. For example, our main zombie, his name is R in the movie. He has this internal thought and monologue that we can hear kind of sprinkled throughout the movie as we follow him. All these zombies, including our main zombie R, are almost at a in-between stage of being fully dead zombie and a little bit alive at the same time. They're still zombies, but they're not fully Walking Dead type zombies. They still have that subconscious, and they might not remember their past all that well, but they're still almost searching for a purpose. Like there's a tiny bit of humanity still left in there. So that's such a unique detail, because I don't know if there's really another zombie show or movie that that does something like that? If there is, I mean, let me know. But it's almost like they're dying and decaying slightly infected humans instead of zombies, but they're still zombies treated in that traditional aspect. So it's just another small detail that really stood out to me. Speaking of the uniqueness, I really like the narration scenes that we get from R. Really, my only complaint is I was hoping for a little bit more of them because I think they could have used it more with the humor aspect. Tiny little nitpick there, but I like the narration that we get from R because I don't think we've ever gotten a zombie movie that is focused on the zombie as our main protagonist and his internal thoughts are part of its storytelling. So you don't have a zombie just trying to talk and communicate throughout the movie. They recognize that might not translate well throughout the whole movie, so you get some internal monologue. So you really learn to build a connection and a care for this zombie, which is just so crazy to kind of say out loud, but it works well. I like that we focus on the zombie and again helps separate this from other zombie movies, especially around that time period when this came out about 12 years ago now. So when I was watching it kind of reminded me of In a Violent Nature or that concept, but this is a well-made movie, and I think this is what maybe the people over at In a Violent Nature thought that they were making. So I just think it takes that concept of following who is normally our villain, our antagonist in a movie, making him our main lead, but making it still interesting from that unique perspective. I also love in this movie the aspect of the bonies. So the bonies in this movie are fully decayed skeletons that were once zombies. So all the zombies in this movie are decaying even further than their present state. So then they turn into these bonies that are ripped of any bit of humanity that they may have had left. And they're just these full skeletons that are way more vicious, way more violent. So I like that because you get the humans, the zombies, their conflict, but then we also have another villain in this movie with the bonies kind of in the background. So it's a nice backdrop to the movie that already has a lot going on. And I think it also helps create a sense of urgency, not only in the story, but with our character of R, because we know he's inevitably going to be turning into one of these bonies. So it creates a sense of urgency in everything that he's doing. Next here, I really enjoyed the detail of when zombies in this movie eat their victims' brains, the humans' brains, they can feel and see and experience part of their memories. So you get a couple instances where they're eating brains and then seeing flashbacks of that person's memories. So I think that's a unique detail in and of itself, but they also use this detail with R, and it helps to create drama in the relationship with the girl that he likes, Julie, because in the beginning of the movie, R actually is the zombie that takes out Julie's boyfriend, and then in order to learn more about Julie, he starts eating her ex-boyfriend's brains to find out more. So it creates some unethical drama there because he knows what he's doing is fucked up, especially for a girl that he is interested in, but you could tell and see why he would be doing this for someone that he's interested in. But then when he gets to the revelation of having to tell Julie what had happened to her ex-boyfriend, it creates a whole other dynamic in that relationship in the story throughout. I really did enjoy how this is a really well-made romance movie at the same time. It's not only a unique zombie movie, but they also do some unique things with the romance aspect. They find unique ways to elevate cliche genres like zombie movies and romance movies. You're taking the two most cliche genres and still finding unique ways to explore this. It was awesome. For example, they use zombies and R, this whole apocalypse, almost as a metaphor for that cliche guy wandering throughout his life just without a purpose until he finds a girl who gives him a purpose and gives him the life worth living. We've seen that plot point before, but in this movie, I think it works because zombies are set up that way, wandering without a purpose. That's what zombies do. And you get some cool scenes where he's kind of narrating that, talking to himself about that, and then finds his purpose through Julie. It's a cliche plot, but you've never really seen it through a zombie, and it's cliche, but not in a zombies aspect because That's what zombies are doing. And we're not used to having zombies with humanity and emotion. So I think it works well and it helps to elevate some of the romance throughout. On top of that, the movie finds a way somehow to take such a ridiculous and silly premise but make it grounded within its own universe. If you have never seen this movie before, and I'm just kind of talking about it, it seems so stupid and silly and just dumb. But they find a way to make it grounded. They have small, important moments that work well between Julie and our zombie R. For example, when they listen to records together, share music they both enjoy, and when Julie teaches R to drive, and then it comes back later on in the plot with the car. It's simple stuff, but you buy into it just because of how well made it is and how well the chemistry and the relationship is set up in the movie between R and Julie. I really enjoyed throughout the entire movie that this romance connection with other people is what's turning R and the other zombies back into humans. Because the whole purpose of this movie is it's in the world, there's a zombie apocalypse going, and the humans are trying to kill the zombies, but then the zombies slowly find out through some of these limited human connections that they can create and start to grow some of their humanity back. So not only I think that's a good message, I think it's interesting to watch. We've never really seen a zombie movie where the zombies are almost the zombies and the humans are part of the cure together, and it's just by having relationships and human connections, genuine human connections. So it's interesting because R is connecting with humanity and Julie, but he also teaches others to do the same. It's a nice simple message. It doesn't beat you over the head with its world peace and messages like that throughout. It's simple. You could treat it surface level and just be like, well, that's the zombie lore in this movie, or you could treat it as a message, as a metaphor for humanity, the world around us, and even just relationships, friendships, family, stuff like that. It almost reminds me of the themes in the newer Planet of the Apes trilogy. I don't think it's as well done in this movie, but they're going for similar things and themes, just like Caesar was doing with the apes. So it's very similar to that. They want humans together because humans together are stronger than when they're separated and divided. It's such a simple message. It's easy to read into, but at the same time, the movie is smart enough to not whip you over the head with it. It could have been so eye-rolling. It could have, but it works well because they just treat it as, yeah, this is what our zombie lore is. If you want to read into it, fine. If you don't, that's just fine too. So it's interesting. It holds up well, and I enjoyed watching that. I think this movie has terrific pacing, and I also love movies about people finding their purpose, finding their path, and following characters who have been just sleepwalking and forgetting to live the life that they actually have, but then following them as they find their sense of purpose, find their meaning, and try to help people around them. So it's so simple. At the same time, it's just a well-made version of some of those cliches. So if you can't tell, I really did enjoy this movie watching it again. It's been a while since I watched it, so it held up very well here. But let's jump into my negatives here. Now, obviously, like I just mentioned, very nostalgic for this movie, and I think it's a well-made movie. It works for me. I really like it. It's one that's always kind of stuck with me. I dig this movie a lot. Some of these negatives here are minor things. I see them all as nitpicks. It really doesn't take away from my full experience of the movie. First here, I hate when zombie movies or shows introduce the concept of, hey, we got to walk through a horde of zombies here. Let's smear zombie guts on ourselves so we can blend in. It's a cool, neat idea, and early Walking Dead did this well, where they actually had like guts and intestines they had to wrap around themselves. As I noticed in those later Walking Dead seasons, they just kind of like do a little like you're a football player rubbing the black eyeliner underneath your eyes, and you're like, all right, we're good to go, Rick. They do this in this movie, I swear to God, like 2-3 times where R's like, I gotta keep you safe, Julie. And then he like rubs a little blood here, rubs a little blood here, and he's like, you're good. And I'm like, well, I don't know. I think it's a nitpick, but like, I would be bathing in that shit. I would drink the zombie blood if I thought it might help a little bit better. I'm just gonna be real with you. I would drink it. Even if no one told me, I'd probably just drink it. Not only in this movie, just any zombie movies that do that, but then they don't really cover the characters. I'm just like, guys, just cover up. Do you want to live or not? Next here, this is also a very PG-13 zombie movie. Not that it's bad for the lighthearted and heartwarming story that they're going for, but don't expect any gore, no violence really. One thing that stood out to me is the zombies just don't look that well done sometimes. I thought the makeup and effects just kind of looked lazy. It almost looked like they just threw a bunch of foundation on the actors, drew a couple lines on their face with the veins, and they're like, all right, walk slow, walk like a zombie, go. And I'm like, well, they just look like really pale humans, and I get they're not fully zombies and they're trying to find their humanity to come back, so it makes the transition maybe a little bit easier, but still, even in the beginning, they look more like vampires, just that pale look, and I'm like, you guys could have taken a little bit more time on some of those effects. My next negative here is I just think that the relationship between R and Julie moves very quick at the beginning. I like the romance, I buy into it, which is crazy. I'm buying into a romance between a human and a zombie, so I think it's well done, it's well written, it's well acted, but I think in the beginning they move a little bit too quick. Julie goes from one scene of trying to escape, telling R she has to go home, and just escapes in the middle of the night trying to get away from him. Then R saves her, and then the very next scene they're having like mini dates in the hideout bunker that they got. They're listening to music, dancing to the vinyls playing, and flirting. Again, I still buy into it. I really do, but at the same time, I would have liked to seen maybe a better build up to that. Maybe a couple more scenes of Julie learning to trust R and trust zombies in general. I think that would have added to the relationship, but it also would have added to the themes and messages of humans working together, building trust between humans, how it's like you don't fully trust them at first. So stuff like that, I think it would have elevated the movie a little bit more, but it goes from Julie not trusting R to the very next scene she's trusting R. So just right there, I would have liked to seen a little bit better build up. Lastly here, I would have liked to seen a bigger battle at the end. I know that's not the story that they're going for. It's more about the relationship and romance, but still they set up the zombies and humans teaming up together to fight the bonies and come together to focus on creating a new world. It would have made sense to have this huge climatic battle at the end between the humans, zombies teaming up against the bonies, but it's very short-lived. You get a couple scenes, it feels like it's building up and just doesn't fully get there. And I imagine that was very difficult with the budget of this movie, because another minor nitpick I had is some of the bonies CGI just doesn't hold up well. It looks more like PS2, PS3 cutscenes of a zombie video games. Little dated aspect there. I think they were constricted with their budget, but still, I would have liked to seen a bigger battle. Even if it was short, I wanted to see everyone charge and at each other. Sue me, okay? Besides that, it ends off on a heartwarming note, so I do like the ending still. See, even in my negatives, I'm throwing in positives here. That's just what you get at ZakIsCinema. Overall here, Warm Bodies is an enjoyable, simple, heartwarming, romantic zombie movie. I think it takes cliche plot points but elevates it with the unique details that it adds to its romance and zombie lore. I think it's a movie that I have nostalgia for, but even without my rose-colored glasses, I still think it's a great movie that does not get the recognition or appreciation now, even though it's been out for about 12 years. I do think this is a pretty underappreciated movie, and if you haven't seen it, sorry I spoiled some aspects, but go out and watch it here. For my rating for this movie, I have it as I own this movie currently on Blu-ray, and if they ever made a 4K version, I would look to own that as well. I think it's a movie that I'll definitely be rewatching and wanting to show people who've never heard of it, and I think it's a perfect movie for the Valentine's Day holiday. So if you've never seen it, definitely check it out. ZakIsCinema approves it. You're welcome. But you have my thoughts here on Warm Bodies. Let me know down down below if you've seen this movie, what you think about it. Do you also think it's underappreciated, or maybe you just know more people that also enjoy it? Let me know your experience with the movie Warm Bodies, and if you've ever wanted a sequel or a continuation or anything like that. Thank you again so much. I do appreciate you guys watching my channel, watching my videos. So thank you.